All right, so first we're going to be hearing from Kristen Heath. She is a lead advisor and the statewide wellness coordinator for the IU School of Medicine. She founded the IUSM Wellness Coalition and has been a key player in the creation and implementation of the school's wellness curriculum, which affects the school's 9 campuses. She's worked in higher education for 10 years, starting her career off on Air Force bases, teaching psychology coursework. She has a BA in psychology from Purdue and an MS in counseling from Butler. She's a certified instructor for mental health first aid, is a trained facilitator for mind-body medicine, and has taught Zumba for 7 years. She's passionate about lifelong learning and devotion to personal well-being. When she is not working, you can find her dancing, tending to her animals and plants, or riding bikes and playing games with her 10-year-old son, Ryder.
I didn't realize you were going to read the whole intro. I thought maybe that was on promotional material. So thank you so much. All right. So this is a very informal presentation that I'm going to be asking you guys questions, and I would love for you to be involved in the chat. And that being said, my crazy animals are attacking me as we speak and my plants. I have a kitten who is currently trying to bite my fingers from under my standing desk because she thinks it's very fun. So this is Nancy. Nancy, you got to get down. So tonight's presentation is called The Hero Within, Becoming the Practitioner That You Want to Be. And honestly, I'm gonna say this is not really practitioner. This should be the person that you want to be, because we're not really talking tonight about just your journey to be a physician, but more about being a person and the stuff that you're kind of dealing with in your journey to adulthood. I'll look at the chat, make sure. Oh, so cute. Hi, Nancy. Make sure I go on that. The stuff I'm talking about tonight has helped me on my personal journey as well, in being a professional and being a counselor and being a mom and being a good friend, and not just a good friend to others, but to myself as well. So we're going to be talking about how we deal with things like observation bias and how that impacts us personally. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to deal with those. And you're probably like, what the hell is that? I'm going to explain. So my first picture that I'm showing you, I can find this. I'm not sure if anybody can empathize with this picture or understand what it means, but I think sometimes in the game of life, we feel as though we have more to offer, but it's not fully coming to fruition. And I think if you're a med student and you're participating already in the wards, sometimes you might feel like you're a pawn and you're not fully utilizing your skills, or maybe they're totally hidden, or maybe they haven't come out yet, right? And I think even in life, a lot of us can feel like that. Sometimes I feel like an imposter. I was super nervous to be the only non-MD talking to you guys this week, or to be the only non-doctor talking to you this week. Sometimes I just feel like I have this hidden part of myself that I don't really know how to tap into. And it's kind of difficult to figure out where and when I can have the time to actually find that part of myself. And how do I do that work even? So we're going to start off with a poll. And I'd like to know, what do you think blocks you from living your best life, or from fulfilling your potential, or for being the person wearing the crown instead of the pawn? So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and I'm going to put in the chat the Poll Everywhere link so you guys can get that. And then I'm also going to pull it up back again on the screen so you can see that as well. Come on, Zoom. There we go. Slideshow. There we go. All right, so some examples you could give me are I don't feel like I have enough support in my life. I don't feel motivated. Maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. Now I'm going to go to the actual poll itself and see if I'm getting any answers. I am. So these are all things I totally would have expected to see, right? So lack of time, lack of sleep, lack of energy, feeling overwhelmed. But a lot of the things that I was really expecting to see and that we're going to really talk about tonight are these ideas of inadequacy and wanting to be a people pleaser and feeling overwhelmed or feeling inadequate, ideas of perfectionism, just your self-esteem and your self-talk. So these are kind of the things that we're going to address this evening and kind of how we do that work to kind of get through those. Thank you guys so much for laying it all out there and being vulnerable. I appreciate that. All right. So my next question for you is, what do you do in times of conflicts, in times of stress, disillusionment, sadness, dissatisfaction? Do you avoid it? Do you stuff it down? Do you vent to your friends? Maybe do you go online? Do you get on Twitter, bitch about it a little bit? Do you act defeated? Do you consider giving up? Do you pour yourself a glass of wine? Do you get a pint of ice cream and eat the whole darn thing? Do you turn on Netflix and say, screw it, I'm just going to watch the whole series tonight? Right. And I'm not just talking about like times of COVID, because like, let's be honest, this whole year has kind of been that way for a lot of us. A lot of times it's easy to just kind of like consider changing your direction too. Maybe you thought you wanted to be a radiologist, and then you're like, you know what, on second thought, I'm just going to do something easier, right? Maybe you have a clerkship experience and it's just not what you were expecting, or the people treated you in a way that you were thinking you could do. And then you're like, you know, I'm just switching gears and doing something totally different. Right? Maybe you wanted to run for a position in an organization, didn't work out how you wanted, so you're just not going to get involved at all. Have things like that happened to you guys? Yeah. Right. Maybe you thought to yourself, I'm going to do this fantastic study plan for step, or I'm going to do this fantastic study plan for step 2. And then something didn't go your way and you just kind of were like, oh, forget it. Never mind. That's not going to work out. All right. I'm just going to give in to the other things. I'm going to do what I've always done. I'm going to cry about it, change gears. It's totally normal. I am not here to make you feel guilty about that. In fact, I'm going to be a little vulnerable with you guys for a minute. So this year, in the time of COVID, on top of everything else, not to say that I have had worse problems than many people in our world, because let's be honest, we have been made very aware of some huge disparities in our world right now. So I'm not saying that my story is any worse than anybody else's, but I went through a divorce during the time of COVID, and it was really difficult. And there are many days that I decided that a glass of wine, a pint of ice cream, and a Netflix show was much easier than dealing with my feelings. But I'm here to tell you that your feelings are still going to be there, and the stuff that you have to deal with is still going to be there. And it's honestly going to be a little bit worse if you don't handle it up front. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. This will make sense more as we go through this. If you've ever heard of the streetlight effect, it's also called the drunkard search, but it's a parable. And essentially it's a parable about an old man, or you can call it a drunk man in some stories, but it's an old man who is looking under a streetlight near a park for his keys. And a police officer comes up and he says, sir, can I help you? He says, yeah, I lost my keys and I can't find them. Can you help me? And the police officer says, sure, yeah, I can help you. And so he gets down on his hands and his knees and he's crawling around and he's helping the guy, and they can't find them anywhere. And he says, are you sure you lost your keys here? And the guy says, no, I didn't lose my keys here. I lost them in the park. And the officer says, then why are you looking here? And the guy says, well, I'm looking here because this is where the light is. So we have a tendency to look for things where it's easiest, where we have always looked before, or where the light is shining, right? So we tend to go to places where we've always gone before when we need answers, right? So maybe in the past, that pint of ice cream did us really good, or that Netflix show made us feel better, or, you know, changing gears completely and giving up on what we wanted worked just fine. But it's honestly just not the way to go. So in times of stress, conflict, disillusion, it's easy to go to these other places. But to what result? right? Instead, why not change the script? Why not reframe it? Why not focus on the here and now, confront those emotions, recognize them, name them. If they're bad, if they're telling you, you can't succeed, you're not supposed to be here, you're not worth it, you might as well just give up. You might as well just shut up and sit down. You might as well avoid that person you're having a conflict with. You might as well work harder if you don't want to be at home with that person. Whatever it is, stop those thoughts and change the script. Combat those harmful thoughts. Learn how to use a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy and say, that's not a healthy thought. That's not a truth. What is true is that I know I'm a hard worker, right? I know that I'm worthy. I know I'm supposed to be here. I know I have things to give. Way easier said than done, right? So what does this have to do with becoming a hero? Right. Okay. So hero's journey, I'm gonna throw some psychology at you. So I threw an old parable at you, now I'm throwing some psychology at you. So hero's journey is a psychological principle. It's one of the Jungian principles. If you ever studied psychology, he was all about archetypes. One of his archetypes was the hero. And a lot of times they use this principle to describe how to write the perfect novel with a hero as the center of it. So a hero prepares, then he becomes his authentic self, then he can claim this hard to attain treasure. All right. And I want to focus on this becoming your authentic self part, because you guys prepared so hard to get where you are today. And I feel like you've encountered so many roadblocks, right? People are telling you from the day that you walk in the door, you're going to be drinking information like it's water out of a fire hose. Okay. You're going to be encountering really mean attendings. And sometimes you're going to be encountering really tired nurses. And you can't change the curriculum. That's not the way it works around here. And oh, you can't really do anything about policies because that's not how it goes. So you're constantly being blocked. And then what happens is, because of the type of person that you are, you rewrite the script in your head instead of changing what's around you. And your authentic self starts to disappear a little bit. And I've seen this so much with the students that I've worked with in my counseling years, and then also working as an advisor to med students. So becoming your authentic self, you're like, how the hell do I do that? Like, how do I stay true to myself in all of this, right? How do I remember that person that wanted to study medicine in the first place? Like, how do I get to know that person again? And how do I follow their hopes and dreams? I've got negative thoughts coming to my head left and right. I've got a lot of pressure going on, right? So the how is something that we hear a lot. It's a huge buzzword. I get it. If you want to change mindfulness and awareness to other words so that it's easier for you to swallow or easier for you to hear, do it. That's fine. But I have got to tell you that practicing mindfulness and awareness is one of the best ways to really learn who you are again, reconnect with yourself, and focus on what's important and know yourself. So this is the idea of turning your attention inward, where the street light might not be showing. So instead of like saying, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna lay on the couch if you have time, or I'm just gonna like go to sleep because that's all I have time for. How about taking 5 minutes to spend that time with yourself, thinking about your emotions, thinking about what you're feeling, and just recognizing them, right? Focus on the present, on what's going on around you. The past is gone. The future is not predictable, and it's probably not going to turn out how you want it to turn out anyway. And there's no way you can tell what it is. You're not a time teller. You're not a time traveler. You're not a fortune teller. You're not going to know what's going on. Those are cognitive distortions you can do nothing about. Focusing on the present is what you can do. How do I feel in this moment? Okay, what can I do with that emotion? And then learning to recognize it and then letting it go by, like clouds in the sky or leaves on a stream, which are really common terms that we use with meditation, right? Recognizing the emotion. And then also not judging yourself for that emotion, okay? You really have to say to you like, okay, I'm angry in this moment and that is okay. Right? I'm happy in this moment, that is okay. Emotions are meant to move. Emote means to move. And a lot of times we don't give ourselves time to feel those things. Even if we're not thinking about med school, if we're thinking about what's going on in the world with all of the racial injustices, or if we're thinking about what's going on with COVID-19, or we're thinking about the fact that like, we're not going to get a graduation or a match party, or we're thinking about, I didn't get to see my grandparent who passed away this year. All of those emotions are welcome, but you have to feel them and you have to experience them. That's a part of being in touch with your authentic self. When you don't do that, you start to have this more angsty, unaligned person that you are, and you do these terrible, not terrible, but just destructive behaviors. Practicing mindfulness declutters your mind, releases you from unrealistic expectations, decreases negative emotions like anxiety, fear, and disappointment as well. You're less likely to feel anxious. You're less likely to be scared. You're less likely to be pissed off at yourself. Right? Now, I am not saying that you cannot have a pint of ice cream and a glass of wine and binge on Netflix, because those things are super important to our existence right now. And they're really fun to do. But I'm telling you right now, they're way more fun to do when you've spent about 5 minutes a day getting to know yourself and understanding why you do those things. Because I like them, because they're fun, right? Because I was angry, because I was sad, because I was in a great mood and I wanted to celebrate. And being mindful, it teaches you just to notice things around you without judgment. You're going to feel less guilty about the things that you do when you have taken time to understand why you do them. I promise you really will. It also teaches you about yourself, and it gives you time and space to reflect on who you are as a person, right? So I'm a person who likes to sit in the quiet. I'm a person who does not like to sit in the quiet, right? Those are things you can realize about yourself. Lost my mouse. Where are you, mouse? There we are. Okay. So connecting the pieces of all of these different things that I've said to you so far, this hero's journey, the streetlight effect, this mindfulness, we really have to turn to ourselves for happiness and well-being. I realize there's a lot of things going on in the world to impact us. And again, I am not saying that, well, you should just look to yourself for happiness and well-being because the world is unpredictable. But it really is. It is. And I tell you, when you connect with yourself and you start to understand that you can choose to be happy and get to know yourself, it really is a freeing feeling. Meditation over time will help us to understand ourselves methodically, and will help us to understand like why we're feeling the way that we're feeling. And also will help us to say like, hey, you know what, it's okay. I can have these feelings and I can sit down at night and experience them and go through them. Okay. Meditation also, I didn't want to throw a bunch of data at you and a bunch of facts at you, but you guys are smart. I know you know that there's a ton of science and research that says gaining self-awareness does develop resiliency and does help you gain compassion for others and for yourself. When you get that compassion for yourself, you're more likely to succeed. You're less likely to feel disappointment in yourself. And then if you decide to change your trajectory because you just decide to change your trajectory in life, you're not going to feel bad about it. Because guess what? It's okay to change your mind, but do it for the right reasons. Do it because you've decided to do it, not because you feel like you can't do it, because you feel like a failure. Right? So all of this stuff opens the door to you just knowing yourself. And that opens the door to growth. That opens the door to you knowing your authentic self. Now, if you've done meditation a lot, you might think to yourself, or if you've even done it once or twice, you might think to yourself, like, how exactly does like sitting up and breathing for 10 minutes or whatever, and telling yourself to focus on your breathing and stop thoughts, how exactly is that going to get me to a point where I know myself? Okay, I thought the exact same thing before I started doing it regularly. But what you do is you get these thoughts that come through your head and you recognize them as they come through. So it's like, maybe the first thought is, I should be doing laundry right now. Okay, let that go. And then the next one is like, I feel guilty for not doing laundry right now. Okay, let that go. And then the next thought might be like, man, I feel guilty a lot. Okay, let that go. Why do I feel guilty all the time? Let that go. I need to stop feeling guilty all the time. Yeah, okay, let that go. And you get this inner dialogue that kind of goes through and you start to understand yourself a little bit more. And even just learning how to breathe can help you with other things through your day. And again, it might not make any sense. It might be like, well, okay, if I just let those feelings go and I didn't focus on them, like, how am I really being introspective? I don't know. I really don't know. I can't tell you that this is X, Y, Z equals ABC in this scenario here. But just from personal experience and from, becoming a mind body medicine facilitator and from reading the data and the research that's behind all of this, I will just tell you, when you spend 5, 10, 15 minutes with yourself, focusing on your breathing and just letting those thoughts kind of go through your head and pass through, you will get to a point where like, you're okay with yourself and you can live in the moment. You can focus on your body and your breath, and you can understand like who you are and what you're going through. So doing the work. You've got to turn the light inside, all right? You've got to look for those keys within yourself. I still encourage you to change policies and change curriculum and make adjustments. But before you do all of that, look inside yourself, see who you are, know what you want, and then you can become a hero within. I promise. So ways that you can practice this mindfulness stuff. It doesn't always have to be meditation, right? I just encourage you to spend time with yourself. You can do journaling, right? So there are great journals that have prompts that ask you questions. So you don't even have to sit down and free write. They can ask you questions like, what went really well today? If you had $1 million or, et cetera, et cetera. There are other journals where you just do gratitude, where, right, you write down 3 things that went great for the day, 5 things that went great for the day. Those things will slowly tell you about yourself too. You can do habit trackers, which help you kind of realize, like, what are your habits? What do you want to change? How do you stay on track with those? You can practice mindful eating, which is like, you're having dinner, you're not using your phone, you're not doing Anki, you're not looking at first aid, you're not watching TV, you're experiencing the food, you're experiencing the flavors, you're finding out what you really love. Okay, mindful walking, same thing. Don't listen to lectures. Don't turn on anything. Don't even listen to a TED Talk. Don't make a phone call. Mindful movement's the same way. Maybe you're going to do some yoga. Maybe you're going to exercise without, plugging into anything. And then there's other practices, coloring, just laying down, sitting outside, enjoying nature. But you can do all of these practices and have some self-awareness time for yourself. And again, it can be 5 minutes. I know you're busy. I know you're busy. So this is like one of my favorite quotes by Emma Tibbins. Going inward, that's the real work. The solutions are not, I'm going to say, always outside of us. Get to know who you really are, because as you search for the hero within, inevitably you become one. So that is kind of the last thing we're going to end with, but I would absolutely love, if we have time, to do a super short meditation.
We have time.
We have time. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to play some music, which I think I need to share my computer sound. All right. So we'll just do a very quick meditation. If you'd like to turn your camera off, if that makes you more comfortable, you can. Or if you choose not to participate because this isn't your thing, I'm totally fine with that. All right. Allow yourself to find a comfortable position with your head, neck, and spine aligned, and comfortable with your arms and legs in a position that feels just right for you. And so, as you allow your mind and body to become still and quiet, just bring your attention to the fact that you are breathing. Become aware of the movement of your breath as it enters your body and as it leaves your body. Don't manipulate it in any way. Don't try to change it. Just be aware of it and the feelings associated with breathing. And with your next inhalation, imagine that you are breathing in peace, calmness, and tranquility. And with your exhalation, imagine that you are breathing out any tension, anxiety, or discomfort that you may be feeling right now. Inhaling peace, calmness, tranquility. Exhaling tension, anxiety, or discomfort. And for the next minute, just give attention and care to each breath, in and out, as they flow one after the other in a never-ending cycle. If thoughts come, let them come and let them go, like leaves on a stream or clouds in the sky. Always coming back to your breath. And now, when you slowly and gently bring yourself back to the room, back to attention. Feel your body in your chair. Move your fingers and your toes. And at your own pace, open your eyes and return to us. Take care of yourselves. Do that inner work. And just know you guys are the heroes. You always have been and you always will be. It's there. You just need to shine the light where it is. Thank you.